So we have to take into account all the things that we do in the Torah, and also for His name's sake. And the Mashiach, which is our Savior, the Mashiach, the Yeshua, is the one who gives us um, the understanding about the knowledge, the meaning of a lot of things. And thank goodness that Mashiach is revealed to us in these latter days. Now, as the title says, the abomination of desolation is very important, because here we understand why a lot of things have happened in the past. And I don't want to take too much of my of the time, because I do want to take advantage of this. So let's jump into it. And uh, first, we understand that the Beit HaMikdash, or the house of prayer, was made to be sacred, to be set apart, and for Yahweh's purpose. We have to understand that these things happen for a reason, and the reason why is because Yahweh Himself wanted to dwell here on earth with us. So we have to understand these things happen for a reason. Let's talk a little bit about a previous parasha that I did not give, but I want to go over a little bit so we can jump and relate to what we're going to bring today. Parasha, it's last parasha in this past Shabbat is parasha Vayachel. It goes like this on Shemot, or Exodus 35, verse 1. And Yahweh, Moshe Vayachel, assembled all the congregation of the children of Israel and said to them, these are the words which Yahweh has commanded you to do. And this is very important, because you have to understand how the Creator Himself wanted to relate all these things, and He wanted to relate these things in a way that He wanted to make sure that the children of Israel understand this concept. But I want you to see this concept as we go along. So let's jump into this. So the Creator says these things, that He wanted to make sure that these things were were visible to the forefathers when they were in Mizraim. And so Yahweh said, you need to understand this concept of understanding how Yahweh is congregating, assembling the children of Israel to say these words. You have to understand why He's saying that to Moshe, to tell our forefathers. Look at what He says, 35 verse 2. Work may be done 6 days, and the seventh day it shall be set apart to you. It's a Shabbat of rest to Yahweh. Everyone doing it in it, everyone doing work in it, surely shall die. Look at what it says. You should not kindle a fire in all your dwellings in the day of Shabbat. You have to understand something very important here. Yahweh Himself said that there is no work that needs to be done on Shabbat. Why? Why is the question? Why is the question that that the Yahweh said that no work should be done on Shabbat? And the reason for it is because He wants our full attention to Him. Now look at what it says in the red. Is it says you should not kindle a fire, you should not make a fire. And the reason for it is because Yahweh said that the only fire that needed to be on Shabbat is His fire, the divine fire that came down from heaven. Remember that there were sacrifices done on Shabbat, and there is two concepts here. The Shabbat was merely for the I'm sorry, let me just put the microphone here. There's a lot of things going on here. Yahweh said that this day Shabbat needed to be set apart, and there are there are two concepts here. The Shabbat should be only for Yahweh Himself, and no fire. Do you see those two? No work, no fire. And the reason for it is because the work that needed to be done only on Shabbat was to Yahweh Himself. Remember that when they do sacrifices, they literally have to do in a way at work, but it wasn't a regular work. It was for the reason to serve Yahweh. You see that? Not for any kind of work, not the work we do throughout the days. That's why Yahweh said work should be done in 6 days, the regular work. But in these days, mine. These days should be on honor to me. So if you remember the Levites, they did in a way work because they had to do their sacrifices on earth and everything. So that's one. Second, the fire, there is no fire according to Yahweh. And the reason for it is because there is, again, work needed to be done. You need to collect all the wood. It was a lot of work. So the only fire that needed to be kindled, it was Yahweh's divine fire from heaven. And who brought this? Yahweh himself. Yahweh is the one who rained down fire to the sacrifice. So that's very important. Now look at what it says in Psalms 12 verse 6. The words of Yahweh are pure words, like silver refined in an earthen furnace, purified 7 times. Do you see that? So that's something very important, that the Yahweh's only fire is his word. And only on the Shabbat, only his word needs to be dwell. Only his word, only his fire needs to be dwell in our hearts, in our minds, in our lives all the time. The Shabbat has to be only dedicated to Yahweh himself. That's very important. Now look at what happened later throughout the years. All these things was wearing out. The love for Yahweh was wearing out. Look at what it says in Yirmiyahu, or Jeremiah 2 verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Go and should cry in the hearing of Jerusalem, saying, Thus said Yahweh, I remember you, the kindness of your youth, the love of your bridehood, when you went after me in the wilderness, in the land that was not sown. Do you see that here? Yahweh is reminding them in the youthly years when they were in the wilderness. Do you see that? They were in Sinai. Remember that when Yahweh gave the Torah, the Matam Torah? So he's remembering all those beautiful things. But something ugly happened here. Look what it says here, 2 verse 8 of Yirmiyahu or Jeremiah. The Kohanim, or the priests, did not say, Where is Yahweh? They did not say that. They did not question. And they whom handled the Torah did not know me. They see that's getting worse. And the shepherds rebel against me. And the prophets prophesied by Baal. You see that? It went after things not profitable. You see that? Here is literally everyone is going astray. You see that? Everyone is going bananas. Everyone is going, profaning the name of the Creator by breaking his Torah. And the worst thing is that is the leaders. You see that? The Kohanim, those who handle the Torah. The shepherds, you see that? The prophets, they're supposed to know better. But here everyone, every single one of them have sinned against the Creator, Yahweh Sebaot. They're supposed to know better. I understand somebody, in the city of Jerusalem, any common person, but here is not a common person. It's somebody who actually knew the Torah, somebody who's actually know the Torah back and forth. Look at what it says, 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3. You look at what it says here. Here it says very clear, don't anyone deceive you in any way. Do you see that? Don't anyone deceive you in any way, for the day will not come unto the day after the apostasy. Do you see that? After the apostasy, and has come, and the man who separates himself from the Torah has been revealed. You see that? The man who has done this has revealed, and the one who's destined for doom. Now this is very, very, is getting even worse, because here you can actually see that the apostasy has I mean, it always has a lot to do with, and let me just move a little bit here so you can see me and we can discuss a little bit. Here is something very, very strange, because it wasn't just anybody. It was somebody who knew the Torah. It was somebody who handled the Torah. It was somebody who's supposed to know better. It was we're not talking about from the world, a heathen, a Gentile, a goy in Hebrew, a goy. It wasn't anybody. It was somebody who knew the Torah. So here in the first century, I mean, in the Rav Shaul, he is literally speaking about those who knew Torah. Now they're going astray. Apostasy means somebody who knew better, somebody who knew what they're supposed to do, somebody who knew the Torah, and now they're going totally against everything that they were actually teaching. That is very severe and worse. So here we literally, I mean, see an apostasy to the highest level. Now let's continue here and let's move on. Look at what it says here in the word apostation. Look at what it says here. The word apostation means repudiation, divorce, repudiation, divorce, bill of a divorce. Do you see that? Here, it is something very, very important, very interesting here, because here you are looking at the word apostasy in Greek, but look at what it says next to apostasy. It means divorce. Do you see that? It means divorce, and it's even getting better, because you're gonna see what does it say in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew scriptures. Look at what it says in Jeremiah 3 verse 8. And I saw that for all the causes for which backslide in Israel, who's Israel? The north of the kingdom, our forefathers, Ephraim, had committed adultery, and I have put her away and giving her a certificate of divorce. Look at what it says. So that means that the word divorce is the same equal Greek word for apostasy, which is apostasy. You see that? I was literally shocked, because I was literally looking up on the Septuagint version, and I was looking at this, and I was literally shocked that divorce means apostasy. It's literally shocking that how the scriptures are revealed to us in every single moment. Now let's look up Daniel, or Daniel 7:7. Daniel 7:7 says this: after this I looked in the night's vision, and I saw a fourth beast. See that? A fourth beast, and it was Shana. The word Shana means different, altered, be diverse from all the beasts. You see that? That fourth beast was completely different, but the word for different means Shanat, which means different or alter or change. Now let's look up a little bit more. The word Shana, we already know that to mean to alter or change. Now Daniel 7:25, and he should speak commands against the Most High, and he should wear out the Kadoshim of the Most High, and he intends to Shana. You see that again? He intends to Shana, to defer, to alter, to change. Times and law. Do you see that? Times and law. Here, we are starting to understand what's going on here, and it's going to get even better as we go along. Now, let's look at a few things here, because I do want you to see something very important here. In First Maccabees, we understand that Maccabees is an extension of the whole Tanakh, but it's very important to give this. The First Maccabees 1:34, and they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and a fortified therein. That means that what happened here, brothers and sisters, is that it is the exact same thing in the city of Jerusalem. They're supposed to be men who actually knew the Torah, somebody who actually knew the Torah, but now what it is is now that instead of the Kohanim, instead of the judges being in the on the doors of Jerusalem, now who's there? It's just a goy. It's just a heathen, because these men, Antiochus the fourth, this Greek emperor went into Jerusalem, and what he did, he raided the city. He changed the laws. He took off he did a lot of evil things that we will see as we go along. But it's the same thing that's happening today. I remember that in 1970s, 1960s, and if you keep going back, a lot of things were not the way they are right now. A lot of people, the innocence of our forefathers were so very high. Now everything is so perverse, and the reason for it is because in their high levels of government, they always put somebody who's very worse than you can ever imagine. Adulterers, fornicators, witchcraft. These people, they do so many evil things that you can even believe. And what they do, it reflects how they act by changing laws. And that's why you see a lot of things. That's why you see, that's what the word Shana means, to alter, to change the things that they were natural. You follow me? They change the things that were natural. And we'll see as we go along. I want you to see this, because it's going to get even interesting as we go along. Now, look at what it says here, first of Yeshayahu, Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, and put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Exactly what's going on today. Today, everything that you can think of that is bad, people call it so good. And everything's supposed to be good, like the Torah, like the morals that we're supposed to follow. People call it, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And they put us down because we're following something very, very, good, something morals that we're supposed to be there. But now everything is turned. The tables are turned completely, and it's sad because now you can even speak about the Torah because people put us down. But if you speak anything about sexuality or fornication, they praise you. If you're gay or bisexual or whatever you want to be, and people celebrate you today. It's not like 30 years ago that was very taboo. Now the tables are turned, and now they celebrate these things. And pretty soon they're going to be changing even. Things are going to get worse to the point that we will not be able to speak the Torah. That's how worse it's going to be. And this is the same thing. Let's look at the Ruach of the anti-Mashiach already working today. Today is the Ruach, one of the Ruach of the anti-Mashiach is the spirit of the anti-Mashiach is the homosexualism. Everything is celebrated today. If you're gay or bisexual or lesbian, they celebrate you today. Today is celebrated. And do you know that it came to us a shock because one of the number one countries or cities around the world is not what you think, which is San Francisco. It's not. Do you know that number one cities to celebrate gay and bisexual and everything? Do you know that is Israel, especially in Tel Aviv? They celebrate, even the government celebrates it, and that is super sad because they're supposed to know better. And like I said, if you go back again, is because of our forefathers. You see that? And not only here, it's few back in the 60s, they moved all the way over here from Israel. They moved all the way here to San Francisco, and some settled there. And that's why you see what you see in San Francisco, because they came down from Israel. First of Maccabees 141. Moreover, the king Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws, and all the heathen agree according to the commandment of the king. Now we are looking at something that is happening as we speak. The one world government that we are looking at today is what we are seeing today is the deprivation of a lot of things. The deprivation that indeed is changing and is getting worse and worse. And I mean, I always pray to Yahweh to give us a strength, those few that are there, I mean, to give us a strength, because things are getting worse. Things are getting so worse right now. We have to understand that if we don't do anything about, I mean, praying and staying active in the Torah, we will become just like them. But we need to hang in there with the Torah. We need to hang in there with our prayers at Tefillah, and we need to keep doing what we're doing as a Hebrew, because nobody is going to change us. We have to stay firm. We have to stay firm. All these things are happening. The one world government is happening when, if you remember, the Maccabees, the feast of Hanukkah. The feast of Hanukkah came because Hanukkah means the feast of dedication, and the dedication because they dedicated the temple that was once an abomination because it was desecrated, it was completely defiled because of this person who brought this to I mean, it was completely defilement. Let's continue and let's continue what it says here in First of Maccabees 1:54. They set up the abomination of desolation. You see that? Upon the altar of Yahweh, and built altars throughout the cities of Yehudah on every side. Now the question is, what was the abomination that they put upon that altar of Yahweh? What was the abomination? This was the abomination that was put on in the altar of Yahweh. This was Sus, the demon Elohim Sus. And this Sus was an abomination. Not only that, here we can pretty much see that this man put an altar to Yahweh, to Yahweh, but he put a Sus there. Look at his name was King Antiochus Epiphanes. The word Epiphanes, or the name Epiphanes, means God or Sus manifested, because he thought to himself that he was Sus in the flesh. So he put an altar to Sus, saying, "Here I am." So he defiled the altar of Yahweh, the temple of Yahweh, and also he slaughtered a pig. A pig, do you imagine? A pig where nobody's supposed to come into the dwelling place. He went in there and he defiled with a pig. 2 of Thessalonians 2:4, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Almighty, all that is worship. You see that? He did it himself. And once again, we have to remember this. Ecclesiastes 1:9 says that everything that was before, everything that was past, it should be again. Everything that happens before, it should happen again. In other words, the past is going to repeat itself. History is going to repeat itself. 2 of Thessalonians 2:4 continues that he sits as the Almighty in the dwelling place of the Almighty, showing himself that he is the Almighty. You see that? Here is we're looking at something that it happened with Epiphanes, Antiochus, but believe me, it will happen again. And this, it's amazing how the scriptures are so accurate. First of Maccabees 1:56, and when they had rent in pieces the scrolls of the Torah which they found, they burned them with fire. Do you see that? And whosoever was found with any book of the Testament, or any Sefer of the Testament, or any consented to the Torah, the king's commandment was that they should put them to death. And believe me, this can happen again. We need to understand this fact that this happened before, and it should be happen again. The scrolls were rent, were torn apart, they burned them in fire, and this could happen again. We have to, that's why it's very important to remember the Torah in our hearts, in our minds. That's why it's important to read the scriptures, to read and memorize every single letter of the Torah, because I mean, this can happen. I mean, we need to remember the Torah, because the Torah is supposed to be written in our hearts. Remember that? Here it says that that's what they did. They literally burned their scrolls of the Torah. There was a family, Mattheah, there was a family of in Jerusalem that they never bend the knee. They never bend the knee whatsoever. They called them the Maccabees, and they were few. They Judah Maccabee, Yehudah Maccabee was the leader, and he said to all his family, "We're never gonna quit. Everybody can go in their own way as our brothers. They can go in the other team with the Greeks. They can Hellenize in themselves. They can be pagan themselves, but will not falter. We do not dismay. We will continue until we die. We will fight until the very end." And this is what happened. What happened was, brothers and sisters, is that they told themselves, "Look, if you have any issue with the Almighty, if you have any issue of idolatry, if you have any issue or anything, set it aside. Let's put it together. Let's go forward. Let's repent. Let's go forward. Let's not dismay. We will fight this. We will fight this." And sure enough, they went and fought with the army, with the Epiphanes army, and they won the battle. And there was a miracle. And they say, "Okay, we can win it again." So every time they keep winning the battles, and every time they won, they gather more people. And every time they won more people. By the time you notice, there was a huge army that they had. Then Epiphanes, he said, "Well, they have a big army. Okay, I will send mine." So he sent a huge army that Epiphanes sent to Jerusalem. And guess what he did? He sent elephants to destroy them, and they still won. The Maccabees won again. And that's what they restored the temple. That's what they restored the temple that was completely defiled. That's what it's called the abomination, desolation, because it was completely defiled for 6 years. And they defiled, and they went and they clean it again. They cleanse the temple, the Beit HaMikdash of Yahweh, and the feast of dedication came in. So once again, it's in another time we will talk about Hanukkah. There's more to it, but I just want you to know how did it happen, and it's very. I just want you to have an idea why is this very important for us to understand. Now, look at what it says, Nehemiah or Nehemiah 8:10. "Do not be sad, for the joy of Yahweh is your strength." You see that? Do not be dismayed, because the word of Yahweh is your I'm sorry, let me just want you to see this, because I don't want you to miss it. Do not be sad, because of the joy of Yahweh is your strength. Now, if you notice here, brothers, Nehemiah, what he went through the same thing. He went with opposition. Nehemiah, he said the same thing. Do not be sad, because the joy of Yahweh is your strength. They were few, the same as the Maccabees. They were few, but they did not dismay. They continue on, because the Yahweh's strength is our joy. Our joy is Yahweh's strength. We need to fight this. In the book of Revelation 11, they have overcome him because of the blood of the Lamb. Who overcome him? Who's him? Is Hasatan. And because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to their death. what's going on today, brothers and sisters, is that we love our lives so much. I'm not saying throw yourself in a ditch. I'm not saying that, but it has to come to a point that Yahweh comes before everything, even our own lives. Time will come, brothers and sisters, that we're gonna have to make our minds. We're gonna have to make our decision to whether follow Yahweh until the very end or bend our knee. So we have to be very careful about it. Daniel 11:32. But the people who know their Almighty will be strong and will work. Do you see that? But the people who know their Almighty will be strong and will work. How do we know the Creator? We know Him because we study the Torah. We put the Torah to work. We just don't study and that's it. No, we put it to work. We do the faith, the emunah, and also the works. Those two things have to work together. Daniel 12:3. But those who can discern or be wise shall be shine like the brightness of the spans or the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. We're supposed to be like the stars. We're supposed to shine just like Abraham, just like Yitzhak, just like Jacob. He saw the 12 tribes of Israel, that the stars, the constellations. We're supposed to be the same thing. Now let's look at another thing. When the idol of Zeus, this demon was placed on that place, it was completely desecrated. Look at what our Mashiach Yahushua said in Matthew 24:15. So when you see the abomination that lay waste, spoken by Daniel the prophet, set up in the set apart place, our Mashiach was already speaking something that was coming in the year 70. Remember, the year 70, the temple was going to be destroyed. And here, the Mashiach is already again speaking about the abomination of desolation again. I mean, once again, the past will repeat itself. Do you see that? The past will repeat itself. Here, I actually went to Rome, and I look at this, what do you call this? The Arch of Titus. If you notice here, the Arch of Titus, it is called the Arch of Titus because it's the triumph of the Arch of Titus. What triumph? I mean, what festival? What triumph? What did he conquer? Well, he conquered the destruction of Jerusalem, and they built this arch, saying, let me just go a little bit here so you can look it up. If you notice here how the Beit HaMikdash, it's how all the utensils in the Beit HaMikdash of the temple, you see that how everything is carried away, is because Titus, he raided the temple of Yahweh, and what he did was he completely raided every stone was completely unturned. I mean, it was unturned. It was turned completely, every stone of the Beit HaMikdash of the temple, because between the stones were gold. So they removed everything and they took everything. They literally, all the treasure that the temple were taken away. Not only that, it was completely destroyed, but also, besides being destroyed and burned and everything, the city of Jerusalem, I mean, they raid completely, exactly what the Mashiach said, that the Jerusalem was going to be raided, the temple was going to be completely destroyed, and and all the things that were set apart were taken away. Do you see that? Now, you see the Colosseum right next to it is because the treasures of the temple, guess what they made? They made the Colosseums. You see that? The treasures of the temple, they made the Colosseum. And it is just unbelievable how they celebrate these things, and we don't know these things. All these things were carried away, and everything was destroyed exactly as the Mashiach said. But let me ask you a question: whose fault is this? Whose fault is this? That's the question I should be asking. Why was all these things happen? We ask ourselves, why the first temple was destroyed? Why the second temple was destroyed? Why? And the reason for it is because the sins of our forefathers. The first sin of our forefathers was because of hatred, because of idolatry and hatred. Because of what they did, then all these things happened. And that was the year 70 because of hatred. And remember what the Mashiach said: "You hate me," he says, "and you did not know me." The Mashiach said these words: "You hate me so much," and because they had this hate in their hearts. That's one of the reasons why the temple was destroyed. The first temple was destroyed because of by not doing the righteousness of Yahweh, by not doing the righteousness of Yahweh, besides idolatry, besides all that. But because remember that they changed, they sold a widow and an orphan for 2 pairs of shoes. Do you see that? That's how much they didn't do righteousness, and that's one of the reasons why the first temple was destroyed. And the second again. And so it's a lot of things. We question ourselves, we question the Creator, but we should question ourselves. What am I doing wrong? The Creator knows our hearts, but what are we doing? Something's happened that we are doing something wrong. So it's always something that we do that defers, the future of our existence. So let's continue on and look at what it says here. When they destroyed the temple and they removed everything, remember everything was made of gold and everything. Look at what it. Let's continue on and a little bit later in the future. At 2:12 of Revelation, to the angel of the community of Pergamon, write, here is a message from the one who has sharp, double-edged sword. Here, Yahushua, the Mashiach, is talking to Yohanan, and he's talking to him about all the things that's happening in every single community in certain places in Minor Asia. Here in Pergamon, aka today's Turkey, look at what it says in the same verse, 12 to 13. I know your works, Yoshua said to the community of Pergamon, and where you dwell, where the throne of Hasatan is. Do you see that? Where the throne of Hasatan is. He knew that Pergamon was the city and the throne of Hasatan, or Satan. So let's look at what, if you notice here, brothers and sisters, we have many temples in Pergamon. It was called the throne of Satan, or Satan. Temple Trajan, Caesar, that was a temple Dionysus, the temple Artemis, and here, if you notice in circle, it was the altar of Zeus. It was the altar of Zeus. This altar that you see here, it was called the throne of Satan. Now here is commonly known that it is today. This is what you see, the what was once the altar of Zeus, and you can see some of the relics here. What was the remains, but it was excavated and taken somewhere. But this is how it's supposed to look, the temple. You see that? This is the altar of Zeus, how it's supposed to look. Now, I want you to see this. Look at what it says here. If you notice here, this is Zeus with the lightning bolt. If you notice here, he's holding a lightning bolt. Let's look at what the book of Luke 10 verse 18 says. And Yahushua said to them, I saw Satan, or Hasatan, falling out of heaven as lightning. Do you see that? Falling out of heaven as lightning. What do you see with Zeus here? As lightning, holding a lightning here. So there is no coincidence that this is happening. Now, you see that this is the altar of Zeus today. They excavated this altar, and they took it piece by piece, and it was taken to Berlin. Okay. Now, before I continue, this is how it looks, and I just want you to see. I took upon to see this, and I want you to see this before anything else. If you notice here how the altar of Zeus was taken and how it looked, you can see it like a 3D view, how it looked all the way around, and it had many idols and demons all around, carved around it, and in top of it that it was some kind of a bowl here, right in the platform here in the middle. And if you notice there, that's how it was placed upon once when it stood in Pergamos. So that's how you see it here today, and that's how we can pretty much see how it looked back in those days. Now let's continue on so we can show you something. This is the altar as we were talking earlier, but this altar of Zeus was taken to Berlin, which was put it together. But Albert Speer was one of the architects of Hitler. Hitler was about to take over Germany, and he asked Albert Speer to make a platform where he was going to make his speech all the time. So, and guess what Albert Speer did? He found out that the altar of Zeus was altar of Satan was in Germany. I mean, in Berlin. So what he made an exact replica, and where you see it standing here. But the amazing thing is that Adolf Hitler was born in 1889. The same year, the altar of Zeus was reconstructed in Berlin. So this is very important, because here, once again, this is not a coincidence. Coincidence is not a kosher word. This is all related to what we know of. If you notice here, brothers and sisters, this is what is called the Cathedral of Light, taken here in the ceremonial what Hitler did. Most of the speeches took place at nighttime. If you notice here how he made, the lights go over. Even he did it on the Olympics. He did it on the Olympics, and if you notice all the lights, remember that's why he's called the angel of light, Satan, because he lights lights. You see that? He lights the lights. And so once again, this is not a coincidence that all this happened. You see that this is the altar of Zeus, or the altar of Satan, the same platform where Hitler was going to stand and speak the words. Now, you notice here the altar of Zeus at nighttime. You see the lights come upon. Now, before I continue on, I do want to mention something very important, and I want you to see me so I can. This altar of Zeus, or altar of Satan, Hitler, what was intentions is to get rid of our brothers, Jewish brothers, and what happened is that he had everything set up already. So on his very altar of Zeus, aka Satan or Satan, he made the speech of the final resolution. In other words, this final resolution was to annihilate all the Jewish people that were in Europe. So that was when he made the speech of the final resolution. That's what he meant. There was going to be an edict or a law to annihilate every Jew from Europe. So that's what he did. So and everything's coming to place. Look at what Satan does when all these things happen. Look at what he does. I'm just switching here so you can see. Look at the word altar means. Altar means an elevated place or structure before which religious ceremonies may be enacted or upon which sacrifices, do you see that? Which sacrifices are may be offered. You see that? So an altar needs a sacrifice. You see that? So guess what he did? Guess what he prepared? He prepared the sacrifice was going to be our Jewish brothers. Look at the word. The term Holocaust comes from the Greek word holocaustos, which means holos means whole, and kostos means burning. That refers to an animal sacrifice that is offered to a god in which the whole animal is completely burned. So all this is taking place. All this is taking place. And the amazing things, brothers and sisters, is that we will see it next. Greek word is holocaustos. In Greek, the word is shuach. The word shuach means destruction, devastation, onlach, and storm, a tempest, or debris. So when he made the final resolution, when he was standing on the altar of Zeus, or Satan, or Satan, he made this law that all the all that this is going to take place. 1st of John or Yohanan 2:18. Children, this is the last hour. You have heard the anti-Mashiach is coming, and in fact, many anti-Mashiachs have arisen now, which is how we know that this is the last hour. Now, once again, all this is taking form, all this is taking place, and all it's going on here is something that is is going to get to the ultimate thing, which is total annihilation of our Jewish brothers. Now, remember that all this is not coincidence. All this is a penned out from Chazatan, and it's not a coincidence. It's not something that it actually happening or whatever. No, these things happen for a reason, and because Chazatan had all this planned out, and we will see it as we go along. So look at what it says here. Leviticus, or Vayikra 4:29. Lay his hands on the head of the sin offering and slaughter the sin offering where? In the burnt offering. You see that? The place where they needed to be offered, the sin offering, was in the burnt offering. Now it's very interesting because the word burnt offering, which means the place, the place. Look at what it says here. The burnt offering, okay, Vayikra or Leviticus 4:14-13. And he shall slaughter the lamb in the place where he slaughters the sin offering and the burnt offering in a kadosh or set apart place. Okay, now look at what the kadosh, the word kadosh in Hebrew, or set apart place in English, but look at what the word in German means. Auschwitz. The word is Auschwitz. What happened in Auschwitz? Exactly, our Jewish brothers were, burned. They were gassed and burned on the it's just amazing how these things. Every time I see this, it hurts my heart how our Jewish brothers went through all this, and it just, it's just unbelievable. Now let's look at something that also happened in Pergamos. In Pergamos, on the same altar of Zeus, they also used to burn people. They used to put them inside of a bowl. Do you see that? Inside of a bowl, and they used to incinerate them inside. You see that? They used to incinerate them. The fire was burning outside, and the person was yelling and screaming, and there was a noise that went through here. It was an agonizing voice that came out of the bull's mouth. And the amazing thing is that, remember the platform that we looked at in the middle of the altar of Zeus? That was this bull. You see that? That was this bull that was placed on the platform. So once again, our Jewish brothers were the sin offering for how Hitler, having the altar, you see that he needed a sacrifice. The sacrifice was our Jewish brothers, and they were incinerate them and burn them completely. So once again, this hurts to see these pictures, but this is something that it teaches a lesson to all of us to be faithful unto the very end. Now let's look at something very important. 6 million Yahudim or Jews were offered as a sacrifice to Zeus. 6 million Jews or Yahudim were offered as a sacrifice to Zeus. Who Zeus is? Satan or Satan, this altar of Satan. You see that? Not only that, that was before the World War II started. 60 million died in World War II. The Yahudim or the Jews count to be the Maaser, which is the tithe or the 10%. So it's not a coincidence, brothers and sisters. It was never a coincidence. All this is taking place as what Satan is doing here is reversing. Is reversing everything that our Creator has taught us in the Torah, but he's reversing to his own means, in the negative, of course. So he's doing it in the opposite. He always wanted to do he always wanted to copy the things that Yahweh does, but he always does it on the opposite. Remember, the Yahweh's light, Yahweh's truth. What is Satan? He's a liar, and he's darkness. Do you see that? He always takes the opposite. Here is doing the same thing. Here is doing the opposite of what the Torah teaches, but in the opposite way. 6 million Yahudim were offered as a sacrifice to Zeus. Now the Bikurim, or the first fruits, were the Yahudim, the first fruits of the world. Now let's move on a little bit. In December 1878, the same year, the altar of Zeus was sent to Berlin. Once again, in 1878 was the same year the altar of Zeus was sent to Berlin. The same year Joseph Stalin was born. So there is no coincidence that these things happen. No coincidence whatsoever. Here we see the altar of Zeus again, and the same place where Hitler was standing and giving these evil speeches, hated speeches with the masses and brainwashing the masses. And now let's move on a little bit forward to the Krishna, Nikita Khrushchev. What he did, he followed the same footsteps from Stalin. Now, very important here, because if we remember when Russia sent missiles to Cuba to store them and have them set up to be launched to United States. You notice here how what the range was. They already, set them up, but one way or other, United States found out, and we know the JFKs. That was the era of the Kennedys, and we know that here, brothers and sisters, here what happened was there was a secret discussion between Khrushchev and JFK, and the secret was that was never disclosed, but what happened was that United States had this missile in this place in Turkey, okay, Izmir. That was the small town in Izmir, and it was ready to launch to Russia. You see that? It was ready to launch to Russia. Whereas here, Russia had their own missile, so they were going back and forth. Khrushchev and JFK, you get down your missiles. The other one saying no, you get down yours. So they were going back and forth. So they talk on the side, on secret, and they said, look, I will get mine down and I will get yours. But look at what is important thing, and that amazed me, that how history is so accurate to the Torah and to the prophets. In this small place where Smir is, this small place, it's in Turkey. Guess what's in there? In there, it's basically the place where the altar of Zeus was once. The altar of Zeus was once. So here in the same place where the altar of Zeus was, Izmir, is amazing because the missile that the United States had there was called Jupiter. The missile that was set up there to launch to Russia was called Jupiter. And do you know that Jupiter is the same as Zeus? Do you know that? Jupiter is the same as Zeus. So here what you're looking at, brothers and sisters, is that in the same place where the altar of Zeus was, the missile Jupiter of Zeus was ready to launch another nuclear holocaust. So this is not a coincidence, brothers and sisters. Look at what it says here in Ephesians 6:16. The burning arrows of the wicked one. You see that? The burning arrows of the wicked one. The word arrow, we know that burning is to burn, of course, but arrow in Greek means missile or missile. You see that? Or dart. But if you look it up, it's missile. If you notice here, I'm giving you the reference. It means a spear or arrow or dart, but also means missile. The word is bellows. Now, moving on a little bit more, I want you to see that this here, brothers and sisters, is another, again, Obama was giving his speech in Berlin, but guess where he is standing? He's standing in the same altar of Zeus, the same altar of Satan, or Satan. You see that? The same altar where once Hitler was standing. It's amazing because we see that these things people don't disclose this, but this is the truth. This is the truth. This is not made up. The same thing Hitler was once standing up. The same thing the Obama was doing. Same thing. This is not made up. This is not coincidence. Coincidence is not a kosher word. This is something that is actually happened. Now we can see this is the arch of Baal, which is the temple of Baal. It was placed on London. This altar, this arch of Baal was placed on London. And the amazing thing is that not only was placed on London, but also placed on New York as well. You see that? This is the altar or the arch of Baal. And there is something hidden here that another time we will bring it. So let's go with the Ezekiel 36 verse 2 says, because the enemy has said of you, the heights of all have become our possession. You see that? The heights of the all have become our possession. Why do you think whatever is going on in the Middle East, is happening right now? Why do you think that the temple that is supposed to be erected by our Jewish brothers, our forefathers, is not happening anytime soon? They're preparing all this, but until now they have not done it. And the reason for it is because Satan has this in power. And it's been going on for almost 2,000 years. The Muslims, the British had it one time, then the Muslims took it, and it's become ever since until now. So, and that's what I want you to see, something that is very strange, very It gives you goosebumps, but that is actually the truth. Look at what it says, the Septuagint version, 22 verse 2 of Bereshit. Go to the land of Moreh and offer him. There is a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I command you. Do you see that? The Septuagint version 22 verse 8, and Abraham said, my son, the Almighty does provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. You see that it was never Yitzhak. It was never Yitzhak, the burnt offering. The burnt offering that the Almighty is providing is the Mashiach. Do you see that? Is the Mashiach. Now, look at what's happening in the first century. The first century, a lot of ugly things happened. Zechariah 11:6-17. Woe to the worthless shepherd forsaking the flock. In the first century, what happened was that the first century was completely, desolated with, there was nobody, it was very hardly somebody that would follow the Torah. And if they follow it, they follow it watered down, washed down, the drain. They did not follow the ways it was supposed to. Only few that were tzaddikim, that were righteousness. But like I said, the leaders are supposed to do this, and they did not. They followed traditions of men, and that's one of the Mashiach was always saying these things, because that was the truth. They forsaken the Almighty. They breaking the Torah completely, and because they kept doing the traditions of men instead of the Torah itself. So, and that's what we're going along right now. I want you to see something very, very important here. If you notice, in here is the in this place that you're looking at, this is a temple of Jupiter. Okay, this is a temple of Jupiter. Remember what we were talking earlier, the Miso of Jupiter. This is the temple of Jupiter, and the temple of Jupiter looked once like that. Okay, but I want today the mosque Al-Aqsa is one of the third holiest site in Islam. Okay, one of the third holiest site in Islam. Okay, this mosque, okay, it's next to the Dome of the Rock. Those two, this is the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mountain. Okay, those two are next to each other. If you notice here, are next to each other. Now those two, because are next to each other, we will see something that is astonishing, and I want you to please put attention to it. This is the ruins of Jupiter. Okay, if you notice here, brothers and sisters, these are the ruins of Jupiter. What do you see here? What do you see here? Do you see any sign, any familiar sign here? You see the swastika that the Germans did. So there is nothing that it's that is a coincidence. It's something that actually happened for a reason. So let's go back up a little bit here, and I want you to see how it looked back in those days. Now this is the how the diagram, and this is the diagram of the Baalbek, the temple of Jupiter in 135 AD. This is how it looked before the Hadrian's temple. Now this is diagram how it's supposed to look. This is diagram how it's supposed to look. The temple of Jupiter, Baalbek, the Hadrian in 135 AD. Now look at today how these two are put together. The first one on the left side is the Dome of the Rock. You see that? It's Al-Aqsa. The one on the right side is the Temple of Jupiter. The Temple of Jupiter is on the right side. Now the Dome of the Rock is right here. Now let's overlay the Temple of Jupiter over the Dome of the Rock. Look at what it said. What it does, it gives you exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. So what is it telling you right now? is telling you that it's not a coincidence. It was never a coincidence. This is actually happened. This actually is set up by, by a plan, by a very dark plan. So here we are looking at another diagram, and here is what we've seen today in eagle eye, how those two look together, and it's amazing how do you see it. Now, what do you see right now? You see a face of a demon, right? You see the horns here, right? You see a horn, you see the eyes, you see a mouth, and you see a mouth here coming out. It is amazing because outside of the dome of the rock, it's what you see here. What do you call this? The marble is a natural marble, and the satanic image in a stone marble. The dome of the rock, what you see here, it's what you see in Isaiah. Let's look at what Isaiah says, 14:12. How you have fallen from the heavens, O Lucifer, O Hallel, son of the morning. You see that? How you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, or Hallel, son of the morning. I want you to see something very important here. One of the Hebrew words for Lucifer is Hallel. It's a strong H 1966. The term Hallel means Ben Shachar, means son of Lucifer, son of the dawn. Isaiah 14:12. The word Hilal is an ancient Arabic word that means moon. Do you see that? Moon, a derivative. The word halal is found in the all Islamic food products to identify them, which is closely associated with the moon and Lucifer origins. You see that? The moon and Lucifer's origin. So now it's taking a form. Now you understand why the temple has not been built. Look at what it says. What you see here. This is a sign of one of the Islamic what do you call this? Products. You see that? One of the Islamic products. But what you see here, you see a moon and a star. Do you see that? Oh, how you have fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, O Hallel, son of the morning. See that? You see the star, you see the moon. All makes sense now. You see most of the mosques, all the mosques, they do have this one. You see the star and you see the moon here. Not a coincidence whatsoever. See, is Allah the same false God as Baal? Of course he is. You see that? Baal or Baal is on the right side and Allah is on the left side. There is no coincidence whatsoever. Everything is a master plan from Lucifer. Halal, you see that? How you see here the moon and the star. But if you notice here how Satan's hexagram here, how is it pentagram, how it comes here, what is worshipped today. So once again, it's not a coincidence whatsoever. And you can see it in archaeology. You can see it in a lot of, the crescent moon, how you see it all the time, and how it's associated with the star. Is not a coincidence. If you notice here, Satan, how he has the pentagram here on his forehead, and look at what it says here. What you see here, you see the moon, the crescent moon on the up, and the crescent moon on the down. In other words, I am the same thing in heaven, and I am here the same thing here on earth. So there is no coincidence whatsoever. Isaiah or Yeshayahu 14:13, and you have said in your heart, let me go up in heaven, and let me raise my throne above the stars of the Almighty, and let me sit in the mountain of the meeting on the sides of the north. You see that? Let me sit up in heaven. All Satan or Lucifer wanted to do is sit in the throne of Yahweh. See that? But look at what it says here, and let me sit in the mountain of the meeting of the sides. It's amazing because the scriptures itself is telling you who is Satan, what's his purpose, what he's done. Ezekiel 28:14. You were the anointed cherub. Cherub is a plural word for cherubim. And I placed you, see that? And you were in the set apart mountain of the Almighty. Where was it? In the set apart mountain. Where is it now? In the same place. See that? He is a cherub. He is not an angel. Angel and cherub is different. It's a higher level of an angel. Okay? So here, look at what it says, 28 verse 16 of Ezekiel. You became filled with violence within, and ye sin. So I have thrown you out from the mountains of the Almighty, see that? And I destroy you, you see that? Once he was in the mountain of the Almighty, where he is now. He was thrown out from there because he sinned. Now he's back again there. Now, before he was serving the Almighty, now he's not serving. Why is he back again? Why does he want to go back again to the mountain of the Almighty, where he is now? Is to defile the mountain, is to defile the place. Remember, the place is supposed to be the set apart place. Now he wants to defile it. 28:14. You were the anointed cherub that covered. You see that? You were the anointed cherub that covered. Remember why did I put that on red? Why did he cover? Remember that in the ark there were two cherubims, right? Two of them were covering the ark, and this is the cherubim. You see that both of them are covering the ark with these wings. So it's not the scriptures is not contradicting itself. Ezekiel 28:18 or Ezekiel, you profane your set apart places. You see that? By your many crookedness. The reason why he was thrown out, because he profaned the set apart, he was thrown out. Now he went back again to profane that place. You see that? All covering, 28:16 of Zekiah, all covering cherub. Why? Because he was covering the ark. You see that? He wasn't anywhere else. He was inside the Beit HaMikdash, inside the most set apart place. Look at what it says in Shemot, or Exodus 25 verse 20. With their faces towards each other. Do you see that? The faces with the cherub turned towards the lid of the atonement. Do you see that? So they were facing each other like this. Now, you see, notice here, this is the marble that is outside the Dome of the Rock. And it's a natural marble. But do you notice how it's something weird? You see that both of them are facing each other, the same thing as the ark. They're facing each other. It's telling you something very weird. And I want you to see something before we finish. If you notice here, I want you to see this. If you notice here how the Dome of the Rock is, and notice here, this is the northern side of the mountain, where it's supposed to be the Beit HaMikdash of the temple. But you notice there how he's situated. This is the northern side, and where you're looking up here is the eastern side. You see that? This is how he's supposed to look. You see that bird eye? This is how he's supposed to look. And once again, this is something that it literally, I mean, it takes us by surprise that these things are not coincidence. These things actually happen. This is actually happening today as we speak. So we have to be really careful. I mean, Satan is very real. As the Almighty, and we have to be really careful. We have to study Torah. He has hatred towards us, and he doesn't want to see us that we are doing good, that we want to serve Yahweh. So that's why you see a lot of violence. That's why you see a lot of degradation of the Torah, of degradation of the moral values today, and that's very, very sad indeed. So once again, I want you to see this before we end. Is Yeshayahu, Isaiah 14:13, in the sides of the north. You see that? So this side is the north, facing the north. You see that? That's what you see these two faces, or one face seeing each other, but this is the faces that you see on the side of the north, facing north. So once again, we are closing, but one thing I do want to say before we close, that Yahweh Sabaoth is the king of the earth, king of the universes, and we have to serve him with all our hearts and our minds. I know that tough times are we're living, and they're going to get even worse, but we have to hang in there. Just as the Maccabees did hang in there until the very end, we have to hang in there. Remember what Ecclesiastes 1:9 says, that the what it was, it will be again. The past will repeat itself. The history repeats itself again. So there is no coincidence in a lot of things that we're looking at. So we just have to study Torah. We have to be faithful. We have to be strong. The more Torah you study, the more scriptures you study, the stronger you are. Like when you practice, when you work out, the more you work out, the stronger you are. That's how it is. So we will close saying thank you very much, all of you who are watching. And this will be posted, of course, in YouTube as well. And we will see you again. I'll be out for 2 weeks, and I'll be back again. And hopefully the Creator will bring us with shalom. Thank you. I'm Moreh, Rapha'Yah. Thank you for everybody who's looking at Sakaya in Texas, Kilis in Puerto Rico, and many, many more. Thank you very much. Shalom, shalom.
Adat Netzat Yisrael presenta